then all, welcome to a new series on Eve. This is called Return to New Eden. This is an interesting one for me. I'm a veteran of Dust and Eve for many years, and I wanted to give Eve a go, so I thought I'd kind of fire up my old accounts. Now, the issue I have here is I've got 15 accounts. I've done pretty much everything you could possibly want in Eve. I've got a couple of Titans, I've got a couple of motherships, got loads of capitals, got quite a bit of swag. So really, what is there to do now? So this is what this series is going to look at. So I guess I should introduce. I'm Ceoparix, and I have played Eve since the beta, and that's 11 years now, 10 and a half years, which is a crazy amount of time. And in that time, I have probably done everything. I made it my mission to actually become skilled at everything that the game has to offer, and that included building Titans, which was probably my milieu. But the reality is that that got very boring very quick, and I did everything from running alliances to running corporations to fighting, basically taking down. Been in the biggest alliances, been in the smallest alliances. I've probably spied my way through most of the major game houses, and to be honest, there's very little left to do. So why am I playing Eve again? Well, that's the question. I think a lot of it is I migrated to Dust 5.1.4 when that game came out, which is an interesting one because Dust seemed to be, I guess, the kind of unwanted child a little bit of some of the Eve community. They didn't really see the point of it or want it, and I'm always a kind of interested in that kind of game. So to me, it was a no-brainer that I'd give it a go. And in that time, I've gone on to do probably over 400 plus Dust videos now. But what I probably have never done is really looked that much at Eve. I've always kind of left my Eve career behind me, so I thought it's probably not a bad time to maybe rekindle some of that. But again, as that rather kind of choppy intro suggested, what is there to do for the veteran in Eve? Now, interestingly enough, Eve just won the Veteran MMO Award, which obviously shows that it's a long-term MMO. So quite a lot of, and funnily enough, Eve is seen as one of the kind of more friendly MMOs for veterans. So it's not like World of Warcraft where once you've got to, level 60, I don't know, I've never played World of Warcraft, by the way, but once you get to level X, that's it. And so you start another character. In Eve, you carry on and you keep going. And Eve becomes, I think, one of these kind of wonderful kind of second jobs in a way, but a nice one, as long as you enjoy, your gaming in Eve. You actually have a bit of a ticking clock every month because you've got to pay for a subscription. Most people, and this is kind of an interesting point because Eve, obviously being a paid subscription game, does have free-to-play capability because other people buy what they call plexes. And a player in Eve can just, earn ISK and then turn that into their game time. And then, in essence, they pay for free. So let's get that one out of the way very quickly. And I think that's probably worthy of note because Dust is obviously free, so a lot of Dusties won't necessarily want to subscribe to Eve. It's all about making money. And we'll maybe look at that in a bit more depth in this series. This is also a new series. So really what we're going to look at today is some observations around the game. Now, I have kind of tinkered with the game, on and off. I did a few orbitals. I've been orbitaling Dusties. That's been quite good fun. But I've never actually, quote, played the game for probably years now. I left in a very messy way. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And it wasn't good. So coming back to Eve is quite a journey for me because I got so involved with this game. This was literally like crystal, blue crystal meth to me. And everything about this game was really exciting, fun, enjoyable, complex, entertaining, metagamey, personal. It got very kind of the personalities, the people that I met were fantastic. And I've even met, friends that are now IRL friends through this game. So it's an interesting one. Now, what we're going to look at really today is perhaps the first and the kind of the obvious thing that most people will do, which is missions. Once you get into Eve, the first thing that you're given the option to do is pretty much, do you mine or do you do a mission? Now, there are other things. There's so many things, in fact. This is why I thought it's best just to do a series of this and maybe focus on each one. Because it's actually something that I think people will, really, choose and pick and go with what they have most enjoyment with. Now, you either mine or you mission. That's certainly how I remember it. So what I did here is I created a Tengu. I've got this character. This is one of my first characters, actually. This is from 2003, would you believe? And yeah, we're going to go and run a mission. Now, to be honest, yeah, there's so much complexity, there's so much in this game to do, that I thought it's probably best to start with missions. It's kind of where I started. I actually mined as well. I did a lot of mining. And I'm honestly not looking forward to doing the mining episode, but I will persevere and we'll go and look through it. But there's so much. Eve is a really deep, varied, rich universe. I think, you can go and look in wormholes, you can explore, you can go and, accept contracts, you can hunt other players in faction warfare, you can hunt other players in deep space. You can go and build an empire in deep space, and to be honest, the sky is not even the beginning of the limit in this game, so I think it's well worth consideration. It's funny how very siloed currently the two games are. There's only a handful of people who play Eve, and they also play Dust, and I think there's very few who maybe understand both as well. So for me, this is kind of a bit of a journey to rekindle my knowledge of that game. So what we've got here is, those of you who are Minmatar Dust players will probably realise this is a Minmatar quarters, and that's actually one of the beauties of the game, is you have a captain's quarters, massive loads of drama behind that. I'm not even going to get into it. But as different stations have different races, your quarters change, which is something Dust pilots have no comprehension of. So it's good to show this kind of stuff. And what we're doing here is we're searching for an agent. So as I sit on my couch, again, Eve pilots can sit on their couches. We can't in Dust, which is funny. And we have the ability to basically pick an agent and go and do missions for them. And it's not just shooty, black missions. You can go and do any kind of mission here. You could do research, distribution, mining, all of these fun things. So here we go. This is a Tengu. This is a tier 3 cruiser. This is like using a shotgun to open a can of beans. It's just way overkill. But I actually can't remember how to play much of this game. So my fit is awful. I really couldn't remember how to warp to various things. I forgot that autopilot worked, how autopilot worked, and so on. So it was a bit of a kind of car crash to begin with. But what I would say is very quickly I got the hang of it again, and I must admit the game looks beautiful, doesn't it? It's still very, very pretty. I think the ships and the choices are just astronomically varied now. So it's very, very complex in terms of understanding what ship to use for what thing. A cruiser such as this is kind of the pinnacle of the technology tree at the moment. So this is what they call a T3 cruiser. This is probably not a bad place to begin. So I think this made sense. Now, I always used to fly Tengus because they were pretty good in deep space raiding. So you could actually equip them to jump past gate camps such as and so on. So they always were quite an interesting ship to me. But anyway, that's for another time. As we look at today, we're now getting our mission from whoever that woman is there with a fantastic haircut, I must admit. We accept the mission, that's all there is. Then you go and jump to the system where the mission takes place. And as I do that, lo and behold, we have a couple of Dusties in there. So there must be a match going on, or I don't know. I assume that that's how the Dust people move around, is all of a sudden they appear in a massive blob of 32 in local. Now, I could be wrong, but I really like that. So I thought I'd leave a little message for them, which you'll see eventually. So here we go. We now warp to our location. And this is kind of it. It's no different to mission running probably in any MMO. You have, X and Y that needs doing. You then warp to that location and then you pick it up or you kill it. You beat it and shoot it with missiles until it stops twitching, and then that's it. And then you go back and claim your reward. And your reward is usually ISK, as in cash, and your reward is loyalty points. And that's kind of it. So, here we go. These are our enemies. These are our NPCs. And what we're going to do is attack them now. And to be honest, it was overkill using this ship. But it was rather fun to see the animations. Everything has changed since I left last, and I mean kind of properly left. Missiles used to be sort of terrible models and looked awful. The turrets were pretty comical. And to be honest, a lot about the game wasn't particularly, I guess, detailed, whereas now it certainly is. There's a massive amount of detail. The way the missiles will actually leave the ship and the way they operate is just unbelievably clever, and just generally many things that I love about this. So watch these missiles as they fly. Look at that, isn't that lovely? And the turrets are fantastic as well. So as we look at some of the enemy ships, look at that. I mean, that's pretty badass, isn't it? And we're fighting a group called the Blood Raiders. They apparently have a rather uncomfortable fetish for blood. So they're kind of like emo vampires, just think of them like that. And that's pretty much the way the game works, is you have so many different factions, all of which are kind of friendly or hating others. So it's very much a kind of political landscape that you can pretty much choose what to do with. Now, again, the beauty of EVE, I would say, is that there is, because it's such a polished product now, there's so much here to look at. So I would say that if you're going to do this, if you're wanting to kind of get into EVE from a Dust point of view, or if you're an EVE pilot and you're watching this video, then obviously you know the game way better than I do. But the challenge is always then really to find something that you want to do. Now, when you have all of the ISK in the world pretty much already, as I do, there's very little point doing certain things. So you do have to kind of pick and choose what you get enjoyment from. EVE is very much a kind of capitalist game. It's almost like a workshop on capitalism, because a lot of people do chase ISK like crazy, and it makes me laugh because so many people in this game who, in real life, are broke. They're living in like in a basement. I'm joking, of course, but a lot of people are like living in a very kind of different world to what they play in EVE, and it's because you have the skill and the capability in EVE to be a capitalist, whereas in real life it's a lot harder, obviously. So you do have to watch yourself, because if you go to particular trade hubs, you're going to find people who just want to rip you off and take your money. In every way, and even people that seem incredibly trustworthy, maybe called CEO Pyrex, are absolutely bastards and will steal the fillings from your teeth. So just be aware of that, because EVE's, I think, sole kind of raison d'etre, if you like, is to create a game that is phenomenally backstabby, and that's now a new word, backstabby, because this game really facilitates it. And to be honest, a lot of other games that I don't think do. I think everybody tries to be protected somewhat, because the last thing you want to do is annoy your player base to the point where they give up the game. Not CCP, they're quite happy just to go and basically create a game where you can absolutely bugger up anybody's hopes, dreams and aspirations and run off taking it all. And I think fair play to them, because it's quite funny. It's actually very funny that they do this. So there we go. This is a pretty easy mission, nothing particularly interesting. I thought I'd start easy. I did have visions of me losing this very expensive Tengu to a single scrambling frigate, so I'm really pleased that that didn't happen. And to be honest, I've got to admit I forgot how beautiful this game was. And this is only 2 or 3% of the game to begin with. You're seeing here a very simple, safe Empire mission. You go on to do so many different things, exploring wormholes, scanning for long lost derelicts, from a dark age of technology lost in deep space. It's quite exciting, and I must admit, I think the game has come on considerably, certainly since I last was playing it. The thing to bear in mind is, if you're going to get it, if you're going to return to EVE, or if you're going to start playing EVE, or if you're already playing EVE, then you probably know this, but certainly for the Dusties that maybe don't know this, you have to be aware that if you want to play this game, the first thing you have to be aware of is that there's a lot of people who do play this game, and as I say, there's a lot of politics here, so just be very careful, try and remain neutral to begin with. Because once you pick a side, you're kind of tarred, you're painted, you're pretty much covered with that image. So I was part of some quite notorious alliances, and so naturally some people think I'm a bastard because of that, and they would be right to think that. So here we go, mission done. We go and hand our mission in, and this is just the beginning. This is a soft start, so we're going to certainly look at some more interesting stuff with this. And also, I have 10 years of assets. I have Titans, motherships, and everything logged off and hidden in deep space. So let's look at that. So hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you next time.